Antonio Damasio, Descartes Error, Emotion, Reason, and the Human Brain. Get ready to delve into the workings of the human brain as we explore the book summary of A Descartes Error, Emotion, Reason, and the Human Brain by Antonio Damasio. This book takes you on a journey into the mysterious realm of experimental neuropsychology and its impact on how we understand the brain's function in decision-making. Discover engaging stories of brain damage and its consequences, such as the intriguing account of Phineas Gage, which reveals valuable scientific clues. Prepare yourself for an intellectual adventure as you learn about the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, practical reasoning, and the powerful relationship between emotions and decision-making in the human brain.
Decoding brain functions. Imagine yourself as an engineer tasked with deciphering a complex machine. One way to approach this would be to remove individual parts and observe the consequences. Similarly, to understand the human brain's functions, we can analyze the effects of brain damage on specific regions. Through this lens, the field of experimental neuropsychology dissects and illuminates the roles of various parts of the brain, leading to groundbreaking discoveries. Imagine facing a complicated machine with the mission of figuring out its inner workings. You might choose to remove one component at a time and observe the resulting changes to gain insights into the roles of individual parts. This very approach can be applied to unravel the complexities of the human brain. Remember that we can gain substantial knowledge of the brain's various functions by studying the effects of brain damage. Of course, intentionally damaging the brain for such purposes is ethically reprehensible. However, unintentional damages caused by injuries, tumors, or diseases offer valuable examples for research. These brain-damaging incidents can occasionally impact only specific regions of the brain, effectively eliminating one part while leaving the rest unharmed. As a result, we can analyze how the brain functions differently before and after the damage to understand the affected part's role in the overall cognitive machinery. For example, damage to the third frontal gyrus can cause a language disorder called aphasia, where individuals struggle to comprehend or articulate speech. This reveals the vital part the third frontal gyrus plays in processing language. By examining such cases, experimental neuropsychology can map out the roles of different brain components and subsequently contribute to astounding discoveries in the field. The intriguing Phineas Gage case. The extraordinary story of Phineas Gage, a 19th-century railroad construction worker, showcases the scientific insights that can emerge from brain injuries. Gage survived an accidental explosion that sent an iron rod through his skull, an incident that significantly altered his personality and behavior. Although he retained normal cognitive function in various areas, Gage developed a lack of concern for his future and an inability to follow through with plans. His experiences offer a unique glimpse into the workings of the human brain and the impact of brain damage on cognitive functioning. The tale of Phineas Gage is a strangely fascinating one that commendably serves as a testament to the resilience of the human brain while offering valuable scientific insights. In the 19th century, Gage worked as a railroad construction foreman in Vermont for the Rutland and Burlington Railroad Company. Known for his reliability and efficiency, Gage was tasked with the dangerous job of setting explosive charges for demolitions. Tragedy struck in the summer of 1848 when a sudden explosion propelled an iron rod through various parts of Gage's head including his brain. Miraculously, Gage survived the ordeal and was able to regain consciousness, sitting up and speaking within minutes. Although a doctor attended to his injuries, surely no one could have predicted that Gage would live for another decade with mostly normal cognitive abilities in perception, memory, language, and intelligence. However, Gage's personality underwent a significant transformation. Friends noted that Gage was no longer Gage, alluding to the uncharacteristic changes in his demeanor. He no longer adhered to social norms and showed little regard for his future. Gage's behavior became erratic in several ways: frequent swearing, lying, ignoring advice, and acting impulsively. Furthermore, he would devise grand schemes, only to quickly abandon them without a second thought. This newfound inability to establish goals or follow through on plans plagued his life. Gage's life took a downward turn as a result of his personality changes. He lost his railroad job and worked several temporary positions at horse farms before finding himself as a circus sideshow attraction. Yet despite the unfortunate circumstances, Gage's experience offers invaluable insight into the complexities and mysteries of the human brain. His tale illuminates the vital role that specific brain regions play in influencing cognitive abilities and human behavior. Decoding the ventromedial prefrontal cortex. Phineas Gage's historical brain injury and the contemporary case of a man named Elliot provide remarkable insights into the role of the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, VPC, in practical reasoning. Both individuals suffered damage to this region of the brain and experienced a significant decline in decision-making skills, thereby highlighting the importance of the VPC in everyday life. In an attempt to understand the consequences of Phineas Gage's legendary brain injury, researchers have utilized advanced computer simulations to recreate the impact of the iron rod that pierced his skull. Their findings indicate that the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, VPC, was likely damaged but other regions remain unscathed. This observation has led scientists to infer a crucial role played by the VPC in practical reasoning. To further support this hypothesis, we must turn our attention to a modern-day counterpart of Gage, Elliot, a pseudonym for one of the author's patients. Previously a successful businessman, husband, and father, Elliot's life took a tragic turn when he developed a brain tumor, which damaged his VPC, similar to Gage's injury. Remarkably, Elliot's cognitive abilities remained intact across various domains, such as visual perception, memory, language, arithmetic, facial recognition, abstract moral reasoning, and general intelligence. However, outside the laboratory setting, it became apparent that his decision-making abilities were severely impaired. Consequently, Elliot struggled to prioritize tasks, manage his time effectively, and listen to sound advice from friends, which eventually led to the unraveling of his life. He lost his job, suffered financial ruin, and faced the breakdown of his marriage. Both Gage and Elliot's unfortunate experiences highlight the indispensable role of the VPC in practical reasoning and decision-making, thereby emphasizing the importance of this region in maintaining a balanced and functional life. Combined, their stories offer an intriguing insight into the mysterious inner workings of the human brain, shedding light upon the complex nature of cognition and how vital brain structures contribute to our daily lives. Practical Reasoning's Brain Trio. Practical reasoning relies not solely on the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, VPC, but also on the limbic system and the somatosensory cortex. These three uniquely interconnected parts of the brain work in unison to perform cognitive functions, emphasizing the role of both emotions and physical sensations in practical reasoning. When discussing severe damage to the VPC, one might assume that this negatively impacts practical reasoning. Although connected, the relationship between these two entities is more intricate than anticipated. While studying patients with similar brain damage and cognitive symptoms, it became apparent that there's more to practical reasoning than just the VPC. It's incorrect to attribute an isolated brain function to a single area of the brain, as most functions are a coordinated effort from multiple parts. Practical reasoning is no exception. In fact, assigning specific jobs to different parts of the brain must recognize that no single part can operate in isolation. Expanding on this, two other types of brain damage can lead to similar symptoms. The first is damage to the amygdala and the anterior cingulate, both of which belong to the limbic system and play a vital role in processing emotions. The second is damage to the right side of the somatosensory cortex, responsible for experiencing physical sensations such as touch, temperature, and pain, including sensations from inner organs like the heart and lungs. Deducing that practical reasoning involves the VPC, limbic system, and somatosensory cortex raises the question of how these three parts work together to perform this cognitive function. Furthermore, deciphering the connection between emotions, physical sensations, and practical reasoning becomes essential, given the involvement of the limbic system and somatosensory cortex. In conclusion, it is crucial to recognize the intricate relationship between different parts of the brain and their contributions to practical reasoning. All three, the VPC, limbic system, and somatosensory cortex, play essential roles in the process. As a result, understanding their cooperation and the impact of emotions and physical sensations on practical reasoning is vital for grasping the complexity of this cognitive function. Decoding emotions and decision-making. Diving deeper into the world of practical reasoning, we're faced with three culprits: the VPC, limbic system, and somatosensory cortex. These areas all have something in common, a connection to emotions and decision-making. The story of Elliot, a man who experienced flatness of emotion and hindered decision-making abilities after VPC damage, sheds light on the inner workings of our minds. Just like the 12 other patients studied with similar VPC damage, Elliot's case reveals a crucial correlation between emotions and practical reasoning. As we venture deeper into understanding practical reasoning, the VPC, limbic system, and somatosensory cortex emerge as key players, united by a common thread. Recalling Elliot's story, the connection between decision-making and emotions becomes evident. After VPC damage, Elliot, like Phineas Gage, struggled with decision-making, goal-setting, and executing plans. However, being alive allowed further scientific exploration in Elliot's case, leading to breakthrough realizations. During their time together, the author noticed something unusual: Elliot narrated his life's saddest moments without a hint of emotion. Elliot appeared emotionally flat, both in the laboratory and in his daily life, with brief bouts of anger quickly subsiding. Upon further examination, the author discovered a striking commonality between Elliot's case and 12 other patients who had VPC damage. All of them experienced diminished practical reasoning abilities and a noticeable flatness of emotions. When shown pictures that would typically evoke strong emotions, Elliot openly admitted that he no longer felt emotions as he once did. This correlation between emotions and decision-making serves as a vital clue in unraveling the enigma of practical reasoning. As we explore the roles of the VPC, limbic system, and somatosensory cortex in shaping our thought processes, Elliot's story opens up new avenues to understanding these intricate relationships within our brains. Emotions, guidance and information. Contrary to common belief, emotions play a crucial role in practical decision-making, as they provide essential information and guidance to our brains. Emotions consist of two components: changes in our body state, and mental images that trigger these changes. Understanding the mechanism of emotions helps in rationalizing the importance of emotions in decision-making. We often believe that emotions cloud our judgment, interfering with logical decision-making processes. However, it is necessary to recognize that emotions contribute significantly to our reasoning abilities and decision-making. Emotions are essential sources of information and guidance for our brains. To comprehend emotions, we can categorize them into two primary components. First, emotions consist of physical changes within our body state. Our body's activity pattern at any given moment determines these changes, including the condition of our organs, muscles, and joints. Our bodies continuously communicate with our brains using chemical and electrical signals, providing updates on these aspects. Emotions manifest as patterns of these body state changes. For instance, happiness may produce a flushed skin, a smiling face, and relaxed muscles. Sadness, on the other hand, may result in our skin getting pale, frowning, and muscle tightness. The feeling of emotions arises from the sum of these sensations, the transition between body states, also known as the emotional body state. Simultaneously, a collection of mental images triggers emotional body states. These images, representations of real or remembered stimuli, can be any sensory perception, like sounds, smells, or tastes. For example, hearing a friend's voice, seeing their face, or recalling their name can evoke happiness. Emotions, a combination of mental images and body states, are vital information sources and guidance tools. They allow our brain to determine what's beneficial or harmful, prompting it to seek or avoid specific situations or stimuli. Positive emotions lead us to attractions, while negative emotions drive us away from repellent situations. To sum up, our emotions are far from obstructing rational decision-making. Instead, they provide crucial information and guide our brains in making well-informed choices. By understanding this emotional framework, we can appreciate the essential role emotions play in practical decision-making and everyday life. Primary emotions, a key insight. Despite damage to his VPC, Elliot's emotional life remained functional, allowing him to experience primary emotions. Being hardwired in our brain since birth, primary emotions consist of basic, short-lived feelings like happiness, sadness, anger, fear, and disgust. Hence, people with VPC damage can still feel primary emotions. For instance, when encountering a snake, our limbic system is responsible for our fear response, a prime example of a primary emotion. This also explains why those with VPC damage, like Elliot, retain the ability to feel primary emotions while secondary emotions are part of a more complex process. Acquiring secondary emotions. The transformation from fear to joy in encountering a snake demonstrates the development of secondary emotions. These emotions result from the accumulation of life experiences and associations, processed through the brain's prefrontal cortex, particularly the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, VPC. This area plays a crucial role in practical reasoning. Picture this: as a herpetologist, you've been fascinated with snakes your entire life. One day, you come across a rare, harmless snake that has been your favorite since childhood. Instead of fear, you're filled with pure joy. This response exemplifies a secondary emotion, acquired over time and shaped by the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, VPC. To understand this emotional shift, let's break it down. An emotion is a blend of your emotional body state and the mental images triggering it. For instance, in this scenario, various images come to mind: the snake in front of you, memories of past encounters with the species, and even words describing its features. Throughout your life, you've gathered countless images from different experiences, connecting them with diverse emotions. Take, for example, your first snake encounter at the zoo with your favorite teacher. This positive memory became a happiness seed in your mind. Later, visiting a pet store with your father and seeing another snake nurtured that seed. As more life experiences support this connection, your brain strengthens the association between snakes and happiness, thus developing a secondary emotion, joy for snakes. Feeling this secondary emotion requires the somatosensory cortex to maintain your emotional body state, while the limbic system helps create it. However, one more essential piece connects your various snake images and the signals from your limbic system and somatosensory cortex, the prefrontal cortex. In particular, the VPC is responsible for merging these factors, transforming your reaction from fear to happiness. This key brain area also plays a significant role in practical reasoning, making it crucial in shaping our emotional responses. The puzzle of practical reasoning. The function of secondary emotions in practical reasoning can be understood through Elliot's story, where his inability to make simple decisions highlights their critical role in swiftly choosing the best course of action. Secondary emotions act as a shortcut mechanism that enables us to make quick decisions in our everyday lives. As we progress towards unraveling the mystery of practical reasoning, we have already examined the roles of the limbic system, somatosensory cortex, and the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, VPC, in producing secondary emotions. Furthermore, we know that emotions can guide us by delivering significant information. Now, to connect all the pieces, we must explore the purpose of secondary emotions in our practical reasoning. We will revisit Elliot's story, which provides a crucial hint to unlock the secret of practical reasoning. During one of their sessions, the author was attempting to schedule their next meeting with Elliot and proposed two potential dates a few days apart. Elliot took out his planner and started weighing every advantage and disadvantage of each proposed date. Even after half an hour, Elliot still couldn't make a decision. This situation shows that Elliot had no issue meticulously thinking through the pros and cons, but he struggled with the critical aspect of practical reasoning, decision-making. Practical reasoning is about evaluating possible actions to choose the most suitable one for ourselves. While spending extended time on decisions might be justifiable for high-stake choices like career moves, it is unreasonable for trivial matters like selecting between two similar dates. In our fast-paced lives, we cannot afford to invest such time into every decision we encounter. Quick and efficient decision-making is essential for questions like cash or credit, left or right, or yes or no. That's when secondary emotions play a vital role in helping us make these quick decisions. As we delve into the final part of our journey into understanding practical reasoning, we will discover that secondary emotions act as our brain's mechanism to cut through the noise and drive our decision-making process. This ability paves the way for us to navigate our everyday lives with ease and efficiency. The somatic marker hypothesis. The somatic marker hypothesis explains how secondary emotions play a crucial role in our practical reasoning. Somatic markers, a distinct type of secondary emotion, guide our decision-making by generating positive or negative feelings towards options, allowing our minds to quickly choose suitable outcomes. This efficient process is essential as life constantly presents us with decisions, and our brains must make reasonable choices within a reasonable timeframe. Without the assistance of somatic markers, our decision-making falls into disarray, leaving us lost in endless possibilities. The somatic marker hypothesis unravels the mystery of how emotions are intertwined in our practical reasoning, involving the connection between the limbic system, the somatosensory cortex, and the ventromedial prefrontal cortex. Somatic markers play a crucial role in our decision-making process, helping us to navigate through our options and possible outcomes by generating secondary emotions. These emotions, whether positive or negative, influence the direction of our decisions based on how they mark specific choices, leading us to either embrace or avoid them. Consider a situation where you're faced with deciding between scheduling an appointment on Monday or Wednesday. Suppose you've developed a dislike for Mondays, given your past experiences associating the day with stress. This life experience forms a negative secondary emotion toward scheduling appointments on Mondays. Instead of wasting precious time analyzing this emotion and your life experiences, an instantaneous gut feeling emerges, nudging you to opt against a Monday appointment. Within seconds, you finalize your decision with a Wednesday appointment, demonstrating how somatic markers streamline the decision-making process. In contrast, the absence of somatic markers has debilitating effects on decision-making, as seen in Eliot's case. He lacks the guiding force of these markers, leaving him to meander aimlessly through various possibilities, endlessly weighing potential outcomes. Life, however, does not afford us the luxury of pondering every perspective. Our brains need to make sensible decisions efficiently, requiring the aid of somatic markers produced by secondary emotions. In conclusion, for our brains to effectively reason, they must take into account the emotions expressed by our bodies. Reason and emotion, mind and body, are not adversaries, but rather, they depend on each other to work in unison. Disregarding this symbiotic relationship, as seen with Eliot, leaves us overwhelmed by infinite possibilities and unable to make appropriate choices.
In A Descartes Error, Emotion, Reason, and the Human Brain, Damasio sheds light on the vital role our emotions play in practical reasoning and decision-making. Through captivating stories, like that of Phineas Gage, and the exploration of the ventromedial prefrontal cortex and other brain functions, you discover that emotions and reasoning are not opposing forces, rather, they are interconnected and dependent on one another. The somatic marker hypothesis, featuring secondary emotions, demonstrates the crucial importance of emotions in making efficient and reasonable decisions. In the end, understanding these fascinating brain processes can alter the way you come to view the relationship between emotion, reason, and the human brain.